Good morning, everyone. My name is Ken Shen. Welcome to the Global to China session. And before I start, I want to ask a question. How many of you have been to China before? Please raise your hand. One? Not too many. So that's great. For those who has been to China, today is a refreshment for you. For those who have never been to China, today is a great chance for you to understand China and the dynamic market for grow your business. My name is Ken Shen. I'm leading the global accounts and the telecom vertical in AWS China. Today, I will spend a few minutes to share with you what is China looks like, what is the market, and what is AWS strategy in China. First of all, let's have a quick glance of China. China leading a lot of things in the world. First of all, talking about the mobile use. You know how many people are using mobile phone in China? 16% of the Chinese use smartphone versus the world average of 45, which represent 875 million population. Let's talk about 5G. China carriers installed more than 1.8 million 5G base stations in China across the country, which ranked the number 1 in the world. Let's talk about mobile payment. Mobile payment is very popular in China. In China, we're cashless. We don't have cash with us. We just have a mobile phone. China mobile payment triple that of US. And let's talk about e-commerce. China is the single largest market of e-commerce, which generate 15% of world transactions. And China is the world's largest IoT market in terms of manufacturing, shipment, and installation of IoT edge devices. Last but not least, China is leading AI patterns and AI adoptions. Then let's talk about cloud. How about cloud business in China? According to IDC, China continues to be the world's largest cloud market, a second largest cloud market, with a compound average growth rate of 32 versus global average of 22. And what is more, if you look at the cloud journey in China, it looks like it just started. The cloud spending only represents 2.7% of the total IT spending in China, so which leaves a huge room for us to grow our business together in China. And the Chinese government is very supportive for cloud and the digital economy in terms of digital industrialization and industry digitalization. In terms of many industries like social media, like automotive, like manufacturing, like healthcare, life and science, a lot of industries are supported by government to develop digital economy and digital industrialization. Now let's have a look at AWS. A lot of you never heard. I talked to a lot of customers. They know AWS, but they never know AWS footprint in China. That's a long journey for us. We start business, AWS start business in China since 2013. And in year 2016 and 17, we launched 2 regions. One is based in Beijing. We call it Beijing region, operated by our partner, CNET. And we launched second region in Ningxia, which is operated by NWCD in 2017. And in year 2019, we launched the Hong Kong region, which is a global, part of global region. Besides the 3 regions we set up, we also established our AI labs in Shanghai, and we have IoT labs both in Shenzhen and Taipei. So you can see it's a long journey for AWS in China. And nowadays, we have thousands of employees in AWS China, all the way from sales, SA, preserve, service, and industry specialist, plus a dynamic partner ecosystem to support your business growth the same as rest part of the world. Everybody will feel curious about our operation models in China, because when we talk about China, they think this country is highly regulated. How AWS, as a foreign cloud vendor, operate our business in China? Actually, our business model is now well accepted, and it's a mature operation model in China. We work with 2 partners. One is NWCD, who operate our Ningxia region, and we work with another partner called CNET, who operate the Beijing region for us. They own the ICP license, who can deliver the cloud service to our customer, and they operate and deliver the product to our customer, while AWS will provide our world-leading technology and a guide and the support to the 2 partners. And this operation model is well lauded by Chinese government as a successful model for foreign cloud vendors to provide cloud service in China market. Next, I will nail down to a little bit more about our operation models. You can see these 2 regions in China all have 3 AZ. And these 2 operators, what they usually do for us is that they help AWS customer for open the account registration and billing and invoicing. And while AWS provide technology, service, features, support to our partners. And besides the operation model, security and compliance is job 0. It's very important for cloud providers. So 2 of our operational partners, they got all the certificates from the regulators in China market in terms of trunk certification, in terms of MLPS level 3 certification, and in terms of a series of iOS certification. So it's fully compliant. And then, based on this operational model, what is AWS China's strategy? Our strategy is very clear. We leverage our global strengths and acting locally. Which are the global strengths? We laid down 5 global strengths. One, no doubt, is our leading technologies and services. Second is our global infrastructure coverage. Third is our proven security and compliance practice to serve our customer. Fourth is our global best practice based on our experience of millions of enterprises in different industries. Last but not least, which is important, is we also develop the dynamic partner community, the same as the world, and also develop local partners to support our business growth. And besides these 5 strengths, we also leverage our strong support across One Amazon and the unique Amazon culture. So equipped with these strengths, our go-to-market strategy is very focused on 3 segments. One is C2C. C2C means we serve Chinese customer using AWS China region. Second is G2C. G2C is we serve multinational customers like you who want to expand business in China using AWS China region. Last but not least is C2G. Nowadays, a lot of Chinese enterprise, they expand their business worldwide. And we serve this customer, help them to expand their business into global by using AWS Global Region. And as I mentioned before, partner ecosystem is very important. If you're a partner, we have the same program in the world, in rest of the world, and in China. And besides, we've already built thousands of partner community, which is APM, AWS Partner Network in China. In terms of various partners like global SIs like Deloitte, PwC, Accenture, and the local SIs and the local reseller distributors, local MSP partners, local service partners. It's a full coverage for our business, all the way from territory to each industries. By saying that, I will pause here. Let me introduce my colleague, Daiwen, who is the SA lead for AWS Great China, to further nail down to the service and technology we're providing in China market. Welcome, Daiwen, to the stage.
Thanks, Ken, for the detailed introduction to AWS business in China. And my name is Wen. I lead a solutions architect team in China, helping customers to build up the platforms to accelerate the business growth there. So today, I want to talk about the service readiness and the technical solutions in AWS China regions. And actually, I presented here 3 years ago. And at that time, we are still collecting many questions from the multinational customers. And now we have summarized them. Typically, there are questions listed here. I can walk you through these questions one by one because this is the FAQ. First, what is the service landing situation in China? Second, how are China regions connected with other global regions? Because you may have already deployed workloads in the global regions and you want to roll out it to China. Third, how can we quickly expand workloads to China? Fourth, how should we deal with data privacy and security? This is the hot topics recently. And fifth, how can we migrate data to regions in China? And last but not least, how should we address ever-changing customer needs? So with all those questions in mind, we summarize a journey like this to help all the MNC customers to roll out the workloads or do the local innovation in China. First of all, as what we are doing in other regions, we need to assess whether the service in this region is enough, is sufficient for your workload. And secondly, the most complete part when you are starting the deployment in China is about the network. And third, we need to build some cloud foundations. And landing zone is one of the major topics in this stage. And fourth, if you have the compliance requirements for your data storage processing, then you need to cooperate with AWS and AWS partners to define the policies for the data privacy and securities. And then, with a well-defined policy for the data, we can set up the tools and the solutions for the data transfer, especially across border. And then with all the five steps, we can do the local innovation. I will walk you through some details to each stage so that you can get a sense of what I mean and what we can offer and what you should do with the products and the solutions there. So once in a while, AWS China has some lag. AWS China regions has some lag in terms of the service launch. However, now the Beijing and the Ningxia region has high priority in the service launch. Taking the service launch in the first half of 2022, for example, there are already over 500 AWS new services and features launched in China regions. Till now, all the core services are available, and they are using the same technology as that in global regions, and there are increasing new services and features launched every month. I can give you an example in AI and ML. SageMaker Studio is a new service when it's launched. And when SageMaker Studio was launched, it was in the first batch. I mean, Beijing region and Ningxia region was in the first batch, along with only 3 or 4 regions globally. So you can see the priority of the China regions in our service teams there. And you can also see the trend line showing the new services and features launched. So everything is very positive. And I also get positive feedbacks from the new customers, I mean the new MNC customer rollouting workloads in China regions. Then I talk about the services launch, and then let's dive deeper into the underlying infrastructure. So to maintain the consistent standards and performance, we conduct the exactly same worldwide standards for redundancy and high availability in terms of the data center design as well as the network connections. In terms of the internet connection, we connect the major tier 1 carriers and ISPs by BGP connections. And maybe some of you know that the data transfer cost is very expensive in China. So we made some localization. To help our customers lower down the data transfer cost, we made a China-specific product called Static BGP. That is a special offering from the China carriers so that we can lower down the price of the data transfer, internet data transfer, via these special products. And besides, IPv6 is supported. Yeah. And as this diagram shows, all data center design are redundant AZs. For example, in Beijing region and Ningxia region, each of them has 3 AZs. And each of them has redundant transit centers. The transit centers connect the availability zone data centers in a full mesh way. And then the transit data center connect to the internet ISPs, the direct connect locations, and also the CloudFront POP locations. Again, let's talk about further about the network. So that I just talked about the data center design and the general internet lines there. But what about the connections if we dive deeper? So, Beijing region and Ningxia region are isolated from the AWS global network for compliance needs. Well, for your information, Hong Kong region is part of the AWS global network. So inside Chinese mainland, there are Beijing region and Ningxia region. We offer the default connection between Beijing region and Ningxia region so that you can easily connect a VPC in Beijing region to a VPC in Ningxia region smoothly with one click. And besides that, we also offer direct connect locations to help you connect any data center to the Beijing region and Ningxia region. And also there are CloudFront POP locations in China, in the Chinese mainland to help you accelerate the internet delivery. And in the bottom part of this slide, I mentioned that the cross-border direct connection, dedicated connection. If you have already deployed your workload in AWS in the global regions, and then you set up your VPC, your account and your VPC in China regions, you may need to connect them for the data transfer, which I will mention later in the slides. We have offered the subscriptions in the marketplace with the products from authorized ISPs so that you can just click that subscription in a global AWS marketplace to leverage authorized ISP's dedicated line to connect your VPC in the global regions and the VPC in China regions securely. And if we did not do this, a customer need to procure the lines with the ISPs by themselves, and typically it will take 4 to 8 weeks. After we provide this in the marketplace, and after you click that, it takes only 1 week to complete this from procurement down to the implementation. Okay, then in the third stage, after we settle down the network things, we need to set up the cloud foundations for some security baselines there. First of all, you need to set up the organizations and accounts. Here, I want to highlight that the AWS organizations and accounts are separated, just as I mentioned, because it is using a different control plane, which is apart from the global region consoles here. But luckily, the billing between the Beijing region and the Ningxia region can be consolidated. And one thing you need to be aware, and I mentioned several times in previous events, is that in the Beijing region and Ningxia region, there's no the concept of a root user. All the users are IAM users. And the IAM user with the admin privilege is the initial user you get. Second, about the security baselines, we heavily leverage the landing zone concept to settle down the security baselines in terms of the network, in terms of the privileges, and also the network settings, the details, configurations. And after that, to enhance the cloud foundations, you need to build up the CI/CD pipelines. I mean, in the continuous integration and delivery pipelines to China. Typically, customers will set up the CI and CD pipelines in China and then connect that pipeline to their global pipelines securely. And here you can leverage your familiar tools such as the Terraform and the CDK to automate all the infrastructure management. And there are also some tips about the China-specific things in the region. For example, the console URL is different. I mentioned this 3 times today. And the region codes are different. Of course, other regions also use a different region code. And the API endpoint will have extra suffix .cn, and the ARN partition will be different. It changes the AWS to AWS-cn. And all of them, with all of them in mind, we will settle down the cloud foundations. This is very important for us to do the next steps. Then the next step is handle the data privacy and the security, which is a hot topic recently. We still carry on the shared responsibility model here. Customers want to leverage security tools and the embedded best practices into their workloads, and we offer our offering contains 2 aspects: AWS parts and AWS partners part. In AWS, the solution architect team and the BD team and also all the the pro consultant team, we can provide the right tools and the right solutions for you so that you can build and maintain a broad selection of the innovate security services which can help customers simplify meeting securities and compliance requirements. But in terms of the policies, we have a very comprehensive partner network to help you to work with your technical team and also your legal team to design the policies of the data privacy and security. The partners offer industry-leading security solutions that help customers improve their security and compliance, from the policies down to the products that can be complementary part to AWS offerings. And with well-defined data processing storage policy there, you need to set up a mechanism for your regular data replication. Maybe inside China, inside a Chinese mainland, but sometimes the cross-border data transfer is needed. We offer two kinds of support. The first kind is turnkey products or turnkey tools. There's a hot tool called Data Transfer Hub. Our solution builder team made this, and the customer can leverage this to simply transfer the data between a bucket in global regions and a bucket in Chinese mainland, in China regions. And also, the Data Transfer Hub can transfer or replicate your Docker images from an ECR in global region to an ECR in China region. And this is a turnkey tool there. Besides that, we also have some solution guidance so that you can follow this guidance to transfer the data or or set up your data replication platform step by step. Here are two popular guidance. The first one is about copying Amazon machine images across the border from your global region to China regions. This is a guide for all the images that is license-free. And second one is about the bi-directional replication between DynamoDB in the global region and DynamoDB in China regions. We didn't make these two stuff into turnkey tool because it varies across customers. It needs more manual work to set it up. So we just write the solution guidance for you, and you can follow them to set up your own platform. Yeah. And I talk about the service readiness assessment and also the network setup, and then the data security, policy of data security and the compliance. And then we need good tools and the solution guidance for data transfer. With all these things set up, you're ready to do the local innovation in China. And that is my part about the technical solutions and the service readiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Taiwan. Thank you for the wonderful speech. Now I'm back to stage. I want to show you, multinational companies, how they're capitalizing in China market. And in China market, AWS quite focus these kind of verticals: automotive, manufacture, retail, healthcare, life and science, and for ISVs. And today, we've already got hundreds of customers. They are not only landing their workload on AWS in China, but we grow the business together in China. And from this logo, you can see that our customers covers various industries, like Coca-Cola, like Siemens, like Sony, like Thermo Fisher. And also, we covered numerous ISVs like SAP, like Info, like Palo Alto Networks, like Fortinet. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce our customer, my good friend, Louis Cho, from the VP of Thermo Fisher, onto the stage to share with you how Thermo Fisher work with AWS in China, and we grow the business together. Welcome, Louis, onto the stage. Thank you, Louis.
So hello, thank you for the opportunity. I want to do this more in a storytelling mode because I think a lot of the experiences that we went through in the last 4.5 years in China, I think could be very helpful, especially when I saw the room and there weren't a lot of hands up that went up when the question was asked, who has visited China? I had the pleasure of going to China 4.5 years ago. I spent 4 years there. CIO at the time walked me around the building and asked me to move there. So American-born Korean, asked to move to China, moved my whole family there. And we formed this organization called Digital Solutions China, right? Not the typical organization. It consisted of IT, digital marketing, data science. I even had lab information management software teams, sales reps, service engineers. So essentially, tried to put everything in a bucket related to digital and was asked to really push forward in China. And a lot of great learnings over the years. I think the biggest thing was really trying to show the value of what's there. I think Ken showed a lot in mobile, and I'll show how Thermo Fisher, starting from China, has started looking at how we can be more relevant from a mobility standard in China. So I think just to start, right, I think the main thing that we looked at was how do we create a connected digital ecosystem, right? One where our customers, whether they're purchasing consumables on the website, whether they're interacting with us in the lab, or whether they're getting support from us, everything is connected. And obviously the key pieces to that is data. I would say for those of you who are not as familiar with life sciences, from a sense of the cloud, it's not maybe further along than it could be. I think there's still some learnings and growth that's needed in the industry to trust some of the cloud aspects. But within Thermo Fisher, we developed the Thermo Fisher Cloud. We have launched connected instruments. We have, like I mentioned, our lab information management software, and we fully embrace the cloud. And Thermo Fisher is a company that is is one of the largest companies that nobody's ever heard of, right? And what I would say is we've been on some, CNBC Mad Money shows before. And I think Kramer put it best when he said, Thermo Fisher is like an arms dealer for researchers, right? So whatever a researcher needs, we sell. Anything from consumables to DNA sequencing machines to $2 million electron microscopes, contract manufacturing, contract clinical trials, and it continues to grow. So our mission is to enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. And that word, enabling our customers, is key because our customers are Pfizer, Merck, Sanofi, right? Those that are really trying to work in the world to cure cancer and other ailments. So one of the things that we looked at is the challenges in the lab, right? I mentioned there's a long way to go in the industry. There's still pen and paper notebooks in the lab, right? There's still a lot of paper being built up, and then when there's an audit, someone has to go through all the files, bring out all these papers and notes just to make sure that things are being done in the right compliance factors. And so, there's a lot of challenges in the lab, and there's a lot of opportunities for digital transformation. And one of the things that we've been able to do, working with our lab information management software, is to bring some of that efficiency, cost savings, and just better ability to be compliant into the lab. We've also been able to be very innovative in China. What I would say in terms of the topic today, global to China, is I spent 4 years in China. I came back in June. Now I have a global role. And I will say you can be much quicker and more nimble in China. You can leverage the China region to be somewhat of an innovation hub. But this example I wanted to share is interesting because this is something that we found out as we visited customers and really worked with our sales and commercial organizations. The one thing I will say is, and you've probably heard it from many people, China is different, right? And that is said a lot, but the question then is, well, everyone is different. Why is China so different? There is the aspect of, this data security, cross-border data protection. We just finished a close to $3 million project to convert our global website, thermofisher.com, to create a regional node called thermofisher.cn to ensure that we're compliant with some of the China regulations in terms of web and data usage. This example is interesting because in the US, you can order a consumable and it will come same day, right? That's just how the network and the ability to serve customers is. In China, we found that same consumable took a week at the earliest, right? And so what we did is we were able to use WeChat, created a mobile application, and we built these supply centers within customer sites, and customers being able to go on their mobile device, find what they need. Someone on a scooter comes to deliver within an hour, right? Now, in reverse, this was so successful in China, we tried to do it in the US, didn't work, right? So there are different problems or different problem statements in China than the US. And so when you're looking to expand or do more business in China, what you're going to want to do is think about China as a different country because it is a different country. And a lot of the things that happen there are not going to be scalable or relatable. So there are things that you can scale and leverage from a global standpoint. But I think when you think about China, the key is to think about the China customer, right? The China practices. I mentioned scooters, right? In the US, you don't see a lot of scooters. In China, I got in a cycling accident. Scooters are everywhere, right? And so this model and the ability for people to be able to deliver product within an hour, that was a game changer for us. It really helped our online conversion. We also built a mobile app, right? One of the things before I went to China, I was big on mobile, and in the US, the comment was, our customers are not ready for mobile, right? But as you think about it, in our daily lives, everything is mobile, right? I'm a big Chase banking customer. I remember when we first got the mobile app, all I could do was check my balance, but I used it every day. Now, I have my home loan, my car loan, my credit card, I can check my credit score, I can send a Zelle payment. I have not been to the Chase Bank, obviously before China, but for 5 years, right? And I think that's what we wanted to do, and we were able to start it in China because from a US standpoint, the comment was, our customers are not ready to engage with us from a mobile standpoint. So we launched this mobile app in China, hugely successful. It wasn't a copy of the website. It was a separate entity. We tagged products. We looked at what the customers are looking for. And so depending on if you're a lab scientist or a procurement agent, we created workflow selling. So you can purchase across the workflow. We customized, personalized the screen. And if you know Thermo Fisher, it's a large organization. It does tend to move slowly. But I think starting this in China, we were able to move very quickly. We were able to do personalized screens, something that our website still is kind of working through. And now that I'm back in the US, we're going to bring the mobile app and the applications here. And so I would say some of the things that we were able to do working with the US counterparts was build this east-west model, right? Not everything is starting from the US, moving into the other countries, but really leveraging the capabilities and the mind share and the leadership within China to also innovate, right? And I'll touch on that a little bit more. I think data science is something that is interesting for us as well. Once we started Digital Solutions China, then the commercial organization gave us customer care and inside sales. So I had customer care teams, inside sales teams, because we were able to increase the number of bookings by 200% because our inside sales reps were equipped with data insights. We built a data portal so that when customers called in or we were engaging with customers, we were able to predict or prescribe products for customers, built this kind of model where it was no touch, go to the web, low touch, leverage inside sales, high touch, that's when you have the field sales engage. And so I think a lot of what we're looking through in terms of leveraging different modeling and obviously the feedback loop with those in the field and those within our teams really helped engage deeper and beyond just the IT or digital teams that we had. And so I think the influence was very clear, and there's a lot of great work being done. So AWS China, and I would say AWS Global. I'm very close to our counterparts in AWS China, but also AWS Global. As I mentioned, we built thermofisher.cn. We have that in the China AWS instances. And there is a dynamic between the global AWS centers and the China ones. And that's something that I think you'll want to continue to partner with our colleagues here at AWS. But not only that, I remember 3-4 years ago, we had talked about what Dianwei had mentioned about the services not being available in China that we had in the US. And everything that we mentioned that we work with, really is responded to. How can we save more costs? So the partnership has been very strong. That's obviously something that want to close off with soon. And I will just end with this quick thing. I mean, when I first got to China, it was very top down. It was very much listen to the leader, don't do anything. Someone told me, and I can't say it in Mandarin, but they said, Louis, this is China. There's a saying here, no try, no die, right? And what that means is just work hard, do your work, and then just do what you're told. And it took a year or two, but really changing the culture and the mindset for your organization in China to be able to have diverse thought and leveraging the whole organization rather than depending on the singular leader, best idea wins. These were some of the elements that we built within the culture to ensure that we can, not only progress in China, but really be a shining light from a digital standpoint throughout the organization. So I do, again, thank you for the time. Ken, thank you for inviting me here. And I hope I can meet all of you soon and discuss this more. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Thanks for Louis' wonderful speech. I think Louis' experience in China, I like his word, no try, no die, but he's still alive today. So give you more confidence that Thermo Fisher in the healthcare industry, it's such a highly regulated industry, but they practice in China and make a lot of innovations in China. And nowadays, Louis even bring the local innovations in China to the global. Okay, with that said, I just said ISV is critical for us. We build a very robust ISV communities on AWS China. And all the way from the apps ISVs like SAP, like Info, and down to the technology infra ISVs like Palo Alto Networks. And it's my pleasure today I have James, the Vice President of Palo Alto Networks, to share with his experience on how Palo Alto Networks build their security solutions on AWS China. And we're go-to-market through marketplace and our sales channel, partner channel, to help them grow the business in China. Welcome, James.
Right. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks. So thanks everybody. Wow, those lights are bright. So as Ken mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Palo Alto Networks Cloud Engagement with AWS. So that's all aspects of our partnership. Everything to, sell with, and especially co-sell. So a little bit about Palo Alto Networks. I'm sure some of you are familiar with us, but we're a $5.5 billion security company, one of the largest single independent security companies out there. We have over 70,000 organizations that we serve around the globe. That's in all 150 countries, including the Middle East, Africa, Latin America, North America, JPAC as we call it, and the Greater China region, of course. We have three main product lines, so let's give you some more background that we deploy. First is our network firewalls, which we're really well known for, including the VM series, our cloud next generation firewall that's built exclusively on AWS, and our SASE product, Prisma Access, which I'll talk a little bit about later. The next product group is Prisma Cloud, which is basically cloud workload security. Again, completely built on AWS. Covers CNAP, CWPP, CMPP, alphabet soup, basically. Really the key thing to know is code to cloud. So if you're a developer developing code to go into the cloud, we can serve you through the whole journey to through the cloud. And then finally, we have our Cortex product line. Think of SOC operations or security center operations. That includes our Cortex XDR product and our Cortex XOR products. Now, we've had a partnership with AWS for several years now. And like AWS, we're customer obsessed. And the partnership's been fantastic. In fact, we're one of AWS's leading security vendors, #1 in the marketplace as far as co-sell revenue. That's a result of our customer obsession and the fact that we integrate all our products with AWS services as they launch. So as I said, that's gone back for several years. So when we had a German auto manufacturer who wanted to expand operations into the Greater China region, of course being customer driven, we followed them to China to help secure their workloads in the Greater China region. We worked very closely with the AWS China team. And I'll tell you, just as a little bit of background, I spent a few years in Singapore working for Intel, and we were Intel Corporation, the chip manufacturer. And when we were trying to expand operations in China, we were on our own. If we had had a company like AWS to help us out, it would have been much smoother. So as a result of working with the China team, we were able to take Prisma Cloud and land it in the AWS Beijing region. And AWS helped us through the regulatory processes. So as a result of that, we are the only SaaS security solution in China that is fully compliant with the Chinese laws, both the data sovereignty laws and the compliance laws. And so we landed that, and now we have 70 multinational corporations who are using that service in China. Now, this is also a result of Ken's team on a global basis, working with our global customers and helping them guide them through the onboarding process there. And we get, again, working with AWS, the advantage is you get the same APN network that they mentioned previously. You get the same marketplace services that you do on a global basis in the China region. And you have a very motivated team within China that helps you, as ISV, helps us expand our customer base, not on the only multinational corporations, but also on the Chinese corporations. So as a summary, working with AWS, we got the speed and agility. They work really fast. Again, it would have taken years if we hadn't had their help there. They're giving us continuous feedback and input on all the laws so that we are following, I said the data sovereignty laws, but also the compliance laws within China. And then for us, it reduced operational complexity. And then as a result, we are also able to pass that on to our customers because, again, they get the same great service that we get on a global basis. With that, I will hand it back to Ken, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, James.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, James, for the wonderful speech. And I assume today not only our customer, but some of the partners, ISV partners, are also in this room. So I encourage you to talk to James after this session if you have any questions. So before ending today's speech, I hope through today's 1-hour session, you learn AWS China, learn our strategy, learn our service and technology, and learn the best practice from our enterprise customer as well as our ISV partners. And hope we can build the confidence together. I know growth is a never-changing topic for us, and we are all under high pressure to grow our economy and the revenue. And China market is a secret weapon for you to grow your business. And with AWS, we will help you to land your business and expand your business smoothly. And last slide, I want to show you, that's a very important slide. You must have a lot of questions, and these are the key contacts and the links. I encourage you to take a picture, even we don't have a chance to answer you today here, but just reach out to us through these links.